You guys always send me these crazy stories, but I never thought I'd be the one living through a nightmare that feels like a Hollywood script. Honestly, I'm still sitting in a motel room, staring at the wall, trying to wrap my head around the fact that the last 15 years of my life were a carefully constructed lie. Before we dive into the details of what I found buried under 8 inches of concrete, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below. Subscribe right now and your mother will always be healthy and happy. Trust me, you don't want to miss the updates on this legal battle. It all started with a simple home renovation. My wife, Elena, and I bought this house 10 years ago. It's an old fixer-upper with a detached garage that looked like it hadn't been touched since the Cold War. Elena always had a weird rule about the garage. It's my workspace, Mark. Don't go poking around in the back corner. The floor is unstable and there's black mold. I'm a simple guy. I trusted her. She's a freelance interior designer, so I figured she just didn't want me messing with her samples or tools. She was always so protective of her creative space. Last Tuesday, Elena went on a business trip to a design expo in Vermont. I decided to surprise her by finally fixing the drainage issue in the garage floor that she'd been complaining about for months. I rented a jackhammer and started tearing up the cracked concrete in that forbidden back corner. About 3 inches down, the drill hit something that didn't sound like stone. It sounded like hollow steel. I cleared away the debris with a shovel, my heart starting to thud against my ribs. It wasn't just a pipe. It was a heavy, reinforced steel hatch about the size of a briefcase bolted directly into the foundation. There was no keyhole, just a digital keypad that looked ancient but still had a faint red glow. My mind went to the darkest places immediately. Was the previous owner a criminal? Was there money? Or was it something much worse? I tried every combination I knew. Our anniversary, the kids' birthdays, the address, nothing. Then, on a whim, I tried the date of her brother's funeral, the guy who supposedly died in a car accident before I met her. Click! The heavy bolts slid back with a sound that felt like a death knell for my marriage. When the hatch opened, I didn't find stacks of cash or gold bars. I found a vacuum-sealed plastic bag containing a thick stack of passports, 6 of them, all with Elena's face, but with 6 different names and nationalities. Brazilian, Italian, Canadian, the list went on. Beneath the passports was a burner phone and a handwritten ledger. I sat there on the cold, dirty floor flipping through the pages of that ledger. It wasn't a diary. It was a logbook of payments. Client 402, Project Alpha, $10,000 monthly. The dates went back to the year we got married. Every single month, someone was paying her a fortune. And then I saw the names of the clients. They weren't companies. They were men, prominent men, politicians, CEOs, even a judge I recognized from the local news. I felt a wave of nausea hit me so hard I had to lean against the workbench to keep from throwing up. My wife wasn't an interior designer. She was something else entirely. I turned the burner phone on. It took a minute to boot up, but when it did, the notifications started screaming. Hundreds of messages, all encrypted, but the previews were enough to make my blood turn to ice. One message, sent just an hour ago, read, "The asset in the garage is compromised. Mark is digging. Extract Elena now." They weren't just watching the safe, they were watching me. My breath hitched. The asset is compromised. I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was a security leak. I looked at the burner phone, my hands shaking so violently I almost dropped it. The messages kept coming. Team B is 2 minutes out. Secure the ledger. I realized with a jolt of pure adrenaline that those 2 minutes were already ticking down. My house, my sanctuary, was about to become a kill zone. I didn't have time to pack. I grabbed the ledger, the passports, and the burner phone, shoving them into my tool bag. I scrambled out the back fence, tearing my shirt on the wood, and sprinted into the woods behind our property. I ran until my lungs felt like they were filled with broken glass.
I didn't stop until I reached the old highway, miles away. I needed answers, and there was only one person who might have them, Elena's dead brother. I spent the night in a 24-hour diner, using the burner phone to trace the last number Elena had dialed before her trip. It led to a private clinic in a town I'd never heard of. Using the ledger's codes, I hacked into her cloud storage. It's amazing what you can find when you know the secret dates of a woman's lies. There were folders of recordings, Elena's voice, cold and clinical, briefing someone on my daily routine. Mark is stable. He suspects nothing. The domestic cover is holding. I wasn't her husband. I was her cover story. I was the boring suburban guy that made her look invisible to the authorities. Every I love you, every anniversary dinner, every plan for the future, it was all part of a performance. She was a high-level corporate honey trap, an operative who specialized in infiltrating the lives of powerful men, and I was her camouflage. But the ledger showed something even worse. She wasn't working for one side. She was double-crossing the very people who hired her, and now they were coming for both of us. I felt a hollow ache in my chest that no amount of anger could fill. 15 years. I had shared a bed with a ghost. I started scrolling through the Project Alpha folder. It was a list of high-stakes blackmail targets, but at the very bottom there was a file named The Insurance Policy. I opened it and my breath stopped. It was a video file. I hit play. It was Elena, looking tired, filmed in what looked like a hotel bathroom. "If you're watching this, Mark, I'm probably dead or compromised," she said, her voice shaking slightly, the first real emotion I'd ever heard from her. "I never intended for you to be involved, but you were the only thing in my life that felt real. They're using the garage safe as a bait. The real data, the data that can bring down the entire cabinet, it's not in the safe. It's in the locket I gave you on our 5th anniversary." I instinctively reached for my neck. I've worn that silver locket every day for 10 years. I thought it was empty, a symbol of her love. I pulled it off, my fingers fumbling with the clasp. I smashed it against the diner table. Inside the silver casing wasn't a photo. It was a microscopic micro SD card hidden behind a false back. Just as I pulled the card out, the diner door swung open. The 2 men from my driveway walked in. They didn't look at the menu. They looked straight at me. I realized then that the burner phone I was carrying had a GPS tracker. I hadn't just escaped. I had led them straight to the prize. One of the men tapped his earpiece and nodded. "We have the target, and he has the card." The air in the diner turned to lead. The waitress was busy refilling a pot of coffee, completely oblivious that an execution was about to happen 3 feet from her. I didn't think. I acted on pure, raw instinct. I grabbed the heavy ceramic mug of boiling coffee and hurled it at the closest guy's face. As he screamed, I dove over the counter, sliding across the greasy griddle area. "Hey, you can't be back here," the waitress yelled, but I was already out the service door, stumbling into the rainy alleyway. I heard the muffled thwip-thwip of suppressed gunshots hitting the metal door behind me. They weren't trying to arrest me. They were cleaning the slate. I sprinted toward the back of a parked delivery truck, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I needed to get to the only place Elena always forbade me from visiting, her family's old cabin in the Blackwood Reserve. She told me it burned down years ago, but the ledger had a utility bill to that address dated last month. I hot-wired a beat-up sedan in the parking lot. Funny how 10 years of living with a spy teaches you things through osmosis, and drove like a demon. When I reached the cabin, it wasn't a ruin, it was a fortress. Hidden behind overgrown pines, the structure was bristling with high-gain antennas and reinforced shutters. I broke in through a cellar window, and that's when the smell hit me. Not mold, not old wood. It was the sterile, sharp scent of a medical lab. I wandered into the main room, and my knees finally gave out. The walls were covered in photos, not of targets, of me, from every angle, every day of the last 15 years. Me at work, me sleeping, me playing with my kids in the backyard. But it was the charts next to the photos that broke my brain. Subject 01, genetic compatibility 99%, progeny analysis optimized. I heard a floorboard creak behind me. I spun around, clutching a glass beaker as a weapon. Standing in the doorway was a man who looked exactly like the dead brother from the photos in the garage safe. But he didn't look like a ghost. He looked like an older, more scarred version of me. "Hello, Mark," he said, his voice a gravelly mirror of my own. "I've been waiting for you to find the locket. It's time you learned why Elena chose you. You weren't just a cover story, brother. You were the backup generator. And our children, they're not just kids. They're the next iteration of the project." My head was spinning. "Brother?" I whispered.